Hello, I'm Angela Arterberry, and I thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to talk to you about a topic that is just near and dear to my heart. I am a speech pathologist that has been in practice for 12 years, mostly in public school settings. And about 2 years ago, I started a camp for children with special needs because my son, who was about 7 at the time and has ADHD, would always get sent home from camps, and they didn't have enough support for him. He also had a lot of social challenges, so with other speech paths, I started a camp called Camp Yakety Yak here around in the Portland area, and I also worked with Sarah Blanchard, who is a speech path there on our first slide. She's in the little outfit dressing up as the food fairy for camp. We tried to get kids to try new foods, and so we thought we'd entice them by looking silly, and sure enough, it worked. So Sarah Blanchard, I thank her for her collaboration in this. Just quickly to get back to my son, now my son's in 4th grade, and you know, though he has attended a lot of the camps and other sessions with me and small group social skill groups, he still describes 4th grade as like a glass wall in his classroom where he's on one side with 2 other kids in special education, and then on the other side of the glass wall are all the other kids in the class. And there's not really a hierarchy of popularity, but he just knows that he's different, even though intellectually he should be able to keep up with those other kids. So this, like I said, is near and dear to my heart. All right, so if you'll turn to your next slide, I get the question a lot, you know, is this our job? And I say that it is. I say that speech paths are uniquely qualified to support kids in their quest for friendship and quest for connection with other people. We know how to break down skills. We know how to teach social pragmatics. And oh yes,
sorry.
Yes, and I'm signing right now your Hello Foundation certificate for your continuing education. So that's all set and ready to go. Okay, so I do believe that SLPs are uniquely qualified. We also can teach the language of emotion, for example, to kids. What I found in my research for the camp and for other things is that as early as age 8, we can see how a child's social functioning is going to pretty much go. You know, the trajectory is there. And if a child is already aggressive or uses their fists or kind of nasty words to settle a disagreement by 8 and is not taught or reinforced for doing a different action, then by middle age they might still be, or probably will still be, using those kinds of words and those kinds of actions to settle problems. So I really believe that speech paths, particularly in elementary school, are just in the perfect place to support kids and help them on to get on a better trajectory for the future. Another kind of life-changing book that I read was a book called It's So Much Work to Be Your Friend by Richard Lavoie. And he is a kind of a special education teacher who has and a therapist who has a special needs private school and for pretty challenged children. And he talks a lot about how much work it is to be a typical peer who's friends with a child with learning disabilities. And he doesn't make the distinction of just children with autism struggle socially, or just children, you know, that have had difficult upbringings struggle socially. Children with learning disabilities, based on their different brain function that affect their academic skills, those brain difficulties also affect their social skills. For example, if on the next slide I'll talk about if it's difficult to predict the future or difficult to predict in what you're reading. It's also difficult to predict what a friend is thinking or what they might do in a situation. So, a prediction difficulty, let's say, as part of a learning disability, would also affect your social functioning. And so I end this slide by saying if the SLPs don't do it, who else is going to do it in a school? The school counselor has a huge job, and they have certainly more training in social emotional challenges. But I think once a child is in special education, I don't know how much support we can expect from the school counselor, whose charge is pretty much all the rest of the kids in the school. So if they're already coming to special education and they're already coming to speech, I think we're the ones that should be tackling this. Okay, so I'm turning to the next slide. And so one of the first steps that I think you could do to support social interaction is to look at the way you're evaluating your kids. And if a child comes to you with just articulation concerns, I think it's smart of us to also look at their social functioning in their classroom. And if they have one good friend, and if they have an overall sense of feeling connected to the school, well, then that's great. We'll just work on your articulation skills. But if you have learning challenges and communication challenges, I'm betting you're going to have some friendship challenges. And we could incorporate some of those social interaction skills into what we're already doing. At the end of the presentation, if you want to look through the slides, I have a little handout that Sarah and I made for a poster session we hosted about this. And on about a third of the way down the page, you'll see like a goal area or an area of need, and then a proposed IEP goal. So for example, if a child has difficulty listening and we want to work on listening skills, then a way to address that goal with kind of a social twist is to, summarize what another person just said to you about their weekend, and use kind of active listening with peers. Instead of just, repeating a story that the teacher has read or repeating oral directions from the classroom. Those are all great and everything, but we want the child to connect socially and to feel good at school. And so if we can make goals to address those areas, that would be great. We also just inherit goals, don't we? All of us inherit following direction goals or vocabulary expansion goals. And so when you inherit these goals, why don't you pick, for example, a vocabulary goal? Pick vocabulary words that relate to social connection. And so on that sheet I have words such as perspective and opinion and play date, introvert, extrovert, and because I think that those are words that they'll continue to hear as they grow, and it's not just content specific. It relates to the real world. So those are just some ideas I have for looking at how you evaluate and how you work with kids given the goal. Also really thinking about nonverbal communication. It's not just children with autism spectrum or nonverbal learning disability who have difficulty with inferring the way someone is standing, their gesture, their facial expression, their tone of voice. It's not just those kids, because it requires simultaneous processing of what they see and what they hear, the words themselves, and the actions in front of them. And that simultaneous processing is usually a pretty big deficit area for a child with a learning disability. It's similar to looking at words on a page. making the images in your mind, decoding what you see and and understanding and comprehending what it is, and then being able to explain it back. Those are all simultaneous kinds of processes that are difficult for children with learning disabilities, and they're probably a challenge in nonverbal communication. So as I say here, always thinking about how can you approach this child as a social coach, or as a social connector, kind of wearing a social connector hat is what I would recommend. I'm turning my slides now, and I'm moving on to another idea I have, or that we've come up with, is just really diversifying your therapy location. I thought that sounded pretty fancy, but basically get out of your room. Okay, we are stuck and isolated in there a lot of the time, and so I've spent a lot of time in my career out in classrooms, which I love a lot. But again, that's really adult directed time. If you are out at recess, or in the cafeteria, in the hallways, these are places where they are unstructured, right? And typically areas of difficulty for our kids. So I really advocate to spending maybe half the time of the child's IEP on in your room, or doing pull-out kind of service if that's what you have to do in your schedule, and then half the time out. It might be that in your private session or your small group session, you might plan some social role play game out for recess, like wizards and fairies. And okay, so the wizards are going to do what? What could the wizards do? And you and the kids collaborate and come up with some fun game to introduce to the kids out at recess, and then go out there with them and be alongside them, pretend, wear a wizard hat, who knows, but just showing that active engagement with others, and then being there as a social coach. If an issue pops up, you've got maybe your incredible 5-point scale, or your Michelle Garcia Winner's Superflex pictures, or whatever it is you've been teaching in a small group. You've got them out there. At lunch, you might want to, I'm thinking that if I was to be in an elementary school again, I would go to all the lunches. I wouldn't be in my room during lunch, eating my lunch, scarfing it down, doing IEPs. I would be out with the kids. Maybe I would have a placemat that I would bring that would have various goals or visual supports for having conversations, or a bunch of descriptors on it. If I said, so, tell me what you did over the weekend, maybe I have some place pictures and some color pictures and things like that to show or to give support to having that back and forth conversation if you have a child with low language ability. So those are just some ideas of how to get out of your room and make things functional to the child's real life environment. Okay, so I'm moving on. I'll come back to some different things later probably, but the next slide is about using engaging materials that you can, as much as you can. So sitting around, I think, and having a social skills group where everybody's, just playing a board game, which is fine. It has its place, but and taking turns, I feel like we can really branch out of that. And so I have some ideas. The first idea, or the first app that I really would like to share with you, for those of you who have an iPad, is called the Social Express, and it is a wonderful animated app that is, I believe, very well designed. It has the ability to pause the action and have thought bubbles, and a child chooses, what is that other person probably thinking based on the facial expression of the other characters? What could he ask next? It's just a very engaging way. We've done it in a group setting. that kids take turns answering it. So there's your turn-taking kind of part. But everyone's engaged, and they're really drawn into these kids' stories. I hear today that it's half price, and it's normally a pretty expensive app at $90, but you can really tell in the quality. And so $45 is a much better price. So I encourage you to get out there to the iTunes store or whatever it's called for apps and check it out. The other, just a word about Superflex. We really like and support the idea of these crazy, unthinkable characters that get in your mind and make it difficult for you to, have good relationships with other people. But we were finding that kids were so drawn to those fun characters that they wanted to be those fun characters, and they didn't really understand that those were things we did not want to be. So what we do is we teach those characters, but we also kind of have made up some characters. Instead of, let's say, Energy Harry, we have Cool Cat, who can just hang out, watch the action, participate, but doesn't have to be the springing, boinging character. Instead of Rock Brain, we might have Gumby, who is a flexible thinker, have actual real Gumby and his little friend Pokey, and they are flexible together and they have fun together. So we try to teach the pro-social choice, and I kind of wish Superflex would have that. Maybe they'll come up with something like that. But just online, a wonderful blog that you could check out is Jill Kuzma's WordPress blog. It's full of free materials, very attractive, smart, engaging materials that you just have to make sure you reference her if you use them, but they're free. So I really encourage you to go look at that. And then on the side of my page there, I have the creativetherapystore.com, and they are a wonderful resource, mostly for like family therapists and school counselors, but they are just full of things that we could find a lot that we could do with it. And so I just really encourage us to look outside of our normal catalogs and our normal way of kind of doing things, and I think it'll bring a lot to your practice. And the last thing on this page is about the group strategy. Just attended a wonderful conference on executive function, and they talked about teaching strategies over and over again, maybe even with puppets or role play over and over again, so that the child has this strategy when they're walking outside to recess, and how to be a part of a group, or how to kind of problem solve a group situation is to go to the group, make sure they see you. You don't go stand in the middle of the group. You stand near the group and make sure that they see you and kind of make eye contact with you. And then the R, you're kind of reading the mood. This is very abstract, but you practice. Are these kids all silly? Are they hyper? Are they having a serious conversation? So I'm reading the mood, just like I would read a book. And I'm reading their actions. Are they playing sports? Are they quietly sharing notes with each other for a test that's coming up? So I'm kind of reading it, doing that social detective work that we know about. And then O, on task. This was actually put together by a wonderful nun in Florida, and so I'm guessing that they say the word on task quite a bit in her school. So I don't know how else to say it, but being having your body and your emotions match what other people are doing. If they are playing soccer, your body is to be like their body. If you pick up the ball and start dribbling it, you're going to look strange, and they're not going to, know how to kind of perceive you. So, so you're matching their mood and actions, and you participate that way. And then understanding. This is the difficult one I find with my son, because of his impulsivity. is understanding when are people kind of done with me, or when are they ready to move on to something else that they don't maybe need me to go with them in that. So understanding, when it's time to leave, and then how do you leave in a way that's not odd, so you want to have kind of that pleasant exit for P. And so, for example, making up a little excuse like, if everybody's like, well, and kind of turning their body from you, teaching kids to say, oh, gosh, I think I forgot something inside, and going back, or, oh, yeah, I see, I see kids playing ball over there, or something like that, where they have a little maybe carrier phrase we could teach them that they could use to exit the space in a way that's appropriate. Okay, so I'm turning to the next slide here. And another step is explicitly teaching emotional regulation skills. So we do a really good job in I think, when we start really hitting social skills. But for me, after the 5-point scale, I didn't have much more to go on. So I have found some more materials that I want to share with you if you like that concept of emotional vocabulary. One is, again, at that creativetherapystore.com, they have a ton of resources that you can use on emotions, because they are therapists and that's what they do. Lots of engaging pictures with those resources. So I again really encourage you. You might get a little sticker shock for pricing, but there might be things that lead you to find less expensive alternatives just on the internet. Feelingsunlimited.com is actually a new manufacturer of products that they're local. They're from Oregon and Washington area, and I just saw them at a dyslexia conference over the weekend, and I really appreciated how, and it was designed by a school counselor, and they take that 5-point scale kind of idea of those basic 5-ish feelings, and then they expand it to kind of a color palette of feelings. So I really encourage you to go and look at that. They have very inexpensive 8.5 by 11 color palette pages that talk about how our feelings can get more and more intense, and the word changes as it gets more and more intense, but yet it's still related to those basic colors that you might have taught with the incredible 5-point scale. And then I just love a website called do2learn.com. It was designed for children with fairly significant special needs, I think, and they just have so much to offer for free or a very reasonable price. And on the top there, I have just one picture of a lesson that talks about different emotions with actual photographs. So I encourage you to go there. It's a great tool. And lastly, I really believe in finding people to partner with. I'm on my last slide here for point number 5, find a partner. I really think that we can get really isolated in our rooms, and it's easy to get our brain kind of tunnel visioned onto these are the amount of evaluations I need to do, and these are the actual goals that I'm working on. And if the goal says they'll learn to read and understand the driver's manual, I'm going to work on the driver's manual. People can get, really focused. And so if you find people to partner with in the school, such as the school counselor or partner teachers or the learning specialist or the autism specialist, maybe co-run groups. I also think if you were out at recess and working alongside the recess duty folks who may have, the least amount of training in the school for working with these kinds of social issues, yet they have to manage all of these kids. I think if you partnered with them, I think they would really appreciate the help, and I think it would be great PR in your school. So anyway, another idea was just, what about a school-wide social skill of the week that everybody kind of got behind, and there was posters made and, fun little, webcasts or other, fun ways that kids could show what the social skill was, and everybody was a part of it. And those are the people in red are different people that help me with the camp, because of course we can't do everything on our own, and so I encourage you to find a partner. I've included some different events, some pictures of different events that I've done in the past to promote social connections. So I'll let you kind of look through those, just fun ideas of how to get kids connected with other kids that they might not have known but might have similar interests. And then again, like I said, at the very end, I have a picture of our little social skills camp, and I'm just really proud of it because all the people in blue are high school and college students who came for free for 2 weeks in the summer, and just had wonderful hearts for the kids. And you can't do work like that without people and help. And so again, just real proud of the amount of kindness that flowed out all the way around, from camper to adult and back. So I have some time for questions now. And so I'm going to, people are wondering about slides. And she responded, and so that's really good. We want everyone to read or be able to see the slides. Oh, okay, so I see here, I'm trying to figure this out. Suggestions for easy movement games or activities for SLPs wanting to have a presence outside. We really, at the camp, when we're moving forward to this summer, we really believe that teaching kids from the games that are already out and popular would be the first way to begin. So if wall ball is popular, wall ball has a ton of rules. People love to tell you you're out, which is very stressful. So I would suggest finding out the popular games at your school and asking, what are the rules? How do we know the rules? And who gets to say who's out? And this kind of thing. That would be an idea I have. Also, a role play game where the kids bring up or create their own roles would be quite fun, I think. Okay, let's see. I'm looking, lots of certificate questions. Oh, the goal page I'm referring to, Miss Kathy from Burns, is at the very end. It's a sheet that looks kind of like this, just kind of not the cutest thing. There's no real pictures on the front of it. And so this section here, we were thinking, this is Sarah and I, what are some goal areas we inherit or we might find in kids, like sequencing or receptive expressive vocabulary, and how could you kind of add social connection as kind of the focus? So that's where that is. Okay, and then one thing that I just went quickly over and I didn't talk about, but this was Sarah's idea that came from one of her schools and one of the speech paths at her school, but this idea of a simple mail station where you buy this bulletin board, and I have the carsondelosa.com. It's only $12, and kids can send postcards to other people in the school and read postcards back. You can maybe even buy a little small red tin mailbox from Oriental Trading Company for $4, and kids get to practice that social exchange of mail, which we're losing nowadays, aren't we, with so much emphasis on electronic communication. So I think kids will really like that.
Those are the last two slides.
Those are the last two slides. Okay. And then Teresa from Yakima talks about advocating for the 3-1 model that some districts are using. And it's very difficult, I agree, to get time out of our room and onto the playground and cafeteria when there are such huge demands on our time. And it's, paperwork and caseload size. I totally agree, Teresa. But the 3-1 model allows her to spend 1 week every month getting out of the classroom and and getting out there and yet not burn out. So I'm with you, Teresa. Actually, Sharon Soliday, the person that is in charge of the Hello Foundation, brought that model to Portland Public Schools. And I was in a different school district at the time, but I heard about it and was really impressed with it and tried to get my district on board. And of course, but what are you doing with your time? So anyway, I support it. And I think everyone else has done a great job here getting their needs met. And let's see, oh, wow, lots of good comments. And if anybody would love to connect with me, or if you have other ideas that maybe we could use or implement at our camp, or more questions for me, you can reach me at the angela.arterberry@thehellofoundation.com. And so I appreciate again everything that that you've asked about, and good well wishes for you, and being that social connector. I'm going to even get a hat with the name on the top, I think. Okay. And so I'm clicking the right thing now, right? Bye. See ya.